All right, GM finally got the technical difficulties worked out.
GM, glad you're safe and sound. Was worried about you there for a minute, sir.
I'm back, man. I'm back. I had my week of reset at the beginning of the year. Feel good. So, yeah, man. I just completely unplugged week. I turned everything, literally everything off outside of text notifications. Um,
Well, yeah. So it's funny because
and I should have
the
tweeted it
timing of
out.
that
Like,
was,
so that was my bad for not tweeting it out.
yeah, no worries. The timing was just awfully coincidental. I had hoped you didn't get liquidated with that 4 a.m. wake that hit us a few days ago. Because I know a few people that did, and then all of a sudden radio silence. I was like, "Oh, please no, boss man." I was like, "Please not."
Dude, I've dealt with a lot worse than anything that happens on any wick recently. So no worries. Like I mean, if I can survive FTX, there's not much that can phase me at this point. So, um, no, but yeah, like looking at it, man, right now, I mean, I think we're about to enter that phase where we've got a few months. Honestly, like I'm still bullish that we're going to go up from here, but I think we're going to see a crap ton of volatility right after this announcement, like both directions. I'm kind of in the camp where a major liquidity event that everybody's been waiting on for so long. I don't think it's going to be the immediate surge in price that so many people expect it to be. I definitely think it's a long term catalyst, and it's going to lead toward a lot higher prices, toward different steps of this bull market. But I don't think it's necessarily going to be one of those things where immediately we teleport to new all time highs. So that's just my take coming up on it. What's been good with you, man, in the new year? I need to tweet this out real quick too.
Well, I round tripped everything I made in December, so that was fun. Um, and they found my car.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, it's kind of mute to be honest, because they smoked crack in it, so the
So,
insurance is going to total it.
good, man. Dude, that's always the thing that I have heard about that's a little bit sketchy is if your car has been stolen and it's been gone for a little period of time, you don't want it to be found to a certain extent because sometimes the insurance companies will screw you over and you have no idea what's happened in there. But, like you end up
Dirty Mike and the boys had a soup kitchen.
um dude, that's where did they find it though? I'm curious.
Honestly, like 15 minutes away from me, like in this ghetto neighborhood. Dude, there was a container of shark teeth in my car.
Shark Teeth.
Yes. Uh, why? The only assumption I could guess is some crackhead probably bartered it. It's like, oh, this is probably worth like at least a rock to, is worth to a museum. So I give you the shark teeth and yeah, I don't know. There was 10 boxes of medical catheters in the trunk of my car, like unopened, which was really weird. Like, yeah, it was. Dude, they stole my favorite frisbee, pretty much the only one that I throw when I go throwing, which was
R.I.P.
unfortunate. Yeah,
That's a huge L.
yeah, yeah. They pretty much took all my stuff out and then replaced it with crackhead junk.
Damn, man. Well, hate to hear that. But
America, land of the great.
Bagsy, welcome up, man.
What's
This
up,
is
guys?
great.
Sorry to hear about your car. I'm not making fun of you, but damn, that's that's intense.
Yeah, it's all right. Hopefully, they just give me a decent size little check I can go throw on 50x leverage and maybe get a better one.
Let's go.
Hey, the girlfriend's still got a car, right? Like,
Dude, she hasn't had a car in like a year.
oh shoot, all right, man. Like, so you were the one like you've at least have you had a rental from the insurance company during this period?
Yeah. I got that on my coverage rental reimbursement. So I've still had a vehicle.
Love that, man. Okay, well, glad that you've at least had some form of transportation into the new year. Bagsy, what's been good with you, man? Welcome up.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, dude, just enjoying the holidays here in Dubai. So a bit hard being away from family, but have some friends here, so that's been cool. Enjoying the nice weather, having a little cigar on the balcony. Can't complain. What about you? You took a week or two hiatus from crypto Twitter. How's that been for you?
Oh, dude, it was good. Like, it was one of those things. I felt like I needed a reset coming into the year. I don't know, man. Past few months, I feel like I've been in a funk where, like, I think a lot of it is just being, the toll over the past few years of being isolated, where you don't have a normal routine doing this as a full-time job, right? So like it is all on your initiative as far as any type of routine, any type of discipline, any type of everything else. And like a couple years ago, whenever I started living by myself, absolutely loved it, right? Like loved the freedom, love not having anything else to weigh me down, anybody else that I'm really concerned about. But that's the catch 22 of not really working in the corporate world is you don't have that regular contact with people. So I think I finally realized over the break a few different things that I want to do to increase my productivity slash a few different goals I really want to work toward this next year. One of them, like, I want to cut back on unproductive screen time, where I found myself just like, especially when your job is getting on Twitter, getting on, looking trading view, looking at whatever else, like it's easy to surf to different apps in between, like little breaks, right? And it's 10 minutes here, 5 minutes here, and you're looking at hours a day of just unnecessary content. And it's like when you're already spending hours a day pouring into this, it's just too much, right? So, like, cutting back on that. I'm also probably insane for what I'm doing. I'm going to like, I'm literally moving out of the house I'm in right now. Going to move in with a couple buddies, and just get an office outside of the house that I've got to go to. So,
That's
um,
smart.
yeah, doing that, man. Like just a few different things to really, change up the routine a little bit, because that's one of the things I realized. I'm like, man, this routine right now, if I am in it for the next couple of years, like it's going to be hell, right? Like, so yeah, it was refreshing. Sometimes I feel like you got to take a step back to kind of really figure out what's going on, and that was kind of the goal of now I've just got a crap ton of messages to catch up on. It's
Yeah.
amazing how much adds up.
Oh, but congrats on the new living quarters. That sounds like a good time being with friends.
Yeah, man, it'll be fun. It'll be an adjustment too, but I think it'll be a good time, right? Like, just be nice to live with people that actually have normal schedules. So, um, just have to figure out what I'm gonna do with everything in the house. I think I'm just gonna literally try to give away most of my crap. I don't know. It'll be kind of nice too. Want to travel a lot more this next year too, so think that'll end up contributing toward that. So, dude, are you living in Dubai full time now?
Yeah, it's been close to 2 years, and I kind of came to the same realization 2 weeks ago because I was boxing and I injured my lower back, so I've been kind of stuck in not stuck in bed, but it's been like a recovery period. And now that I realize that you know doing daily activities is more difficult, I'm like, well, what am I doing with my life? I'm on my laptop a lot of the time, so yeah, I'm coming to the same realization, and I think working outside of the house is a brilliant idea. And I've actually been looking for an office too, so that's been it's been a fun little adventure here. But Yeah, honestly, Dubai's been awesome. If anyone lives here or plans on ever moving out of your country, it's a really cool place.
So there are enough other guys that I know that are involved in this space over there that have moved over there or active right now. Would you ever consider doing something if you had like a couple good buddies where you just got an office set up together and you guys, like, or do you enjoy more kind of being separating that part of your life completely, not really plugging in as much on that side of it, like having your privacy whenever you're working on your trading, the CT side of things. Um, what would be your approach with that?
That's a good question. I mean, I like because I hang out with some of the CT guys here, like Rookie or Charles, or we have a little group here, so we hang out, we go out. Uh, but getting an office with them, I've never really considered that. I've always been not a loner, but I like working alone. So I wouldn't be against it, but like, I mean, trading around other people would be to me stressful. So I just need like a really quiet environment if I'm going to do it. But if it were just like shit posting on Twitter or looking for setups and stuff, that'd be cool. But I think the idea of being with other people is just leads to idea generation, and that's the thing that's most interesting to me. Because you can still generate things online on Twitter, on Telegram and stuff, but it's different when you're with like-minded people who have good intentions. So I'm open to it. I just haven't really asked anyone, hey, do you want to rent an office with me and hang out? I haven't really thought about that, but it's not a bad idea.
Y'all should do it, man. um,
Yeah.
have have the super setup. I mean, I feel like for somebody like Rookie, it makes sense where you're doing a lot of the streaming. Which I'm curious, man. Are you going to start back up on the streaming game? Because I mean, a lot of people in here may not know you were one of the OG CT streamers back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, today I jumped into a few Twitter spaces and I'm kind of judging whether it's something I want to get back into. But that was really an awesome way for me to meet people here. So I think it's something that would definitely be beneficial to me and hopefully the listeners too. But yeah, I do miss it. I do miss it. It's just things got so chaotic for me in 2020 that I had to kind of shift my focus elsewhere. But now I'm in a place where I could definitely see that happening again. And that's actually where I first met you through Ace at the time. And I remember we tried getting you on the podcast a few times. But yeah, I do miss it. And that's
Well,
why I'm
back
here
when you were
too.
doing the race, I refused to do it, man. I was still too nervous to come out and talk on the mic when you were still active with him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I think obviously now, like you do it once or twice, and it becomes fun, and it's cool to share your thoughts too, and to have conversations with people that are smarter than you, or where you can learn something, or at least have like a friendly debate. But yeah, I miss it.
Well, I'm voting for the comeback this year. I'm voting for making it happen.
Thanks, man. So in that case, if I do reboot it, I'd love to have you on and we could have a cool chat
I'm
about
in. So, hey, another
about
question,
everything.
man. Would you do video with the mask again, or are you?
Oh, dude, that's a great question. I mean,
Because
if
that
I
that
were
was
to
the
do,
other funny part, right? You were doing the mask videos back pre-COVID too, where like nobody did
yeah,
mask videos back then. I mean, it was like that was the signature mark.
yeah. I mean, if anything, I'd have to message my friends at home and get them to ship the mask back out over here because I left it there when I moved. But I would probably keep the mask. Fuck it, like my face doesn't matter.
No, that's the other thing I always flip back and forth on, man. And I think I'm back toward the period of leaning toward face doxing again because I mean, heck, anybody that matters, I've already met in person anyway. I mean, a lot of people that from different events.
Yeah, I still haven't met you though.
I know,
Unfortunately,
man. That's why I had to
we
take it
haven't
back. I
crossed
had to change
paths.
it from anyone to like a lot.
Yeah,
um,
no, that's a good
yeah,
point. Me
so it's
too.
like I've met a lot of people, but like the doxing side of things is always about that crazy 1%, right? Because outside of that, I don't think my day-to-day life would look any different, right? Like CT isn't mainstream enough that you're walking around and you just have random people come up and like it's about that 1%. Like there was this one girl, Kara Resurrect or whatever, that has about 20 or 30 different
Oh yeah,
accounts,
I think
right?
I know who that
I think
is.
it's Randy
Yeah.
actually. And
Oh really? That's
I
possible.
actually do. There were some ties that like here was my thought process behind it. So she, and I say she very, sparingly, like she, or cautiously, she commented on a couple of my uh, tweets, and I'd never seen her before. And she just started, shitting on whatever I was putting up. And I was like, okay, who is this? So I start doing a tiny bit of digging. And she had all these alt accounts that were all these other random accounts that would just back her up and be like, yeah, Kaleo sucks. Kara's a queen. Kara's this goddess. And I'm like, this just doesn't make sense, right?
You're
This
like,
something's
Kara
not
has a
working
cock.
here. Yeah, so I go down and I start doing some digging on some of these different accounts. And all they do, the only thing these accounts do is retweet Kara content. So as I'm doing more digging, I start finding different accounts that are on there that were her previously. They were like tweeting as her with screenshots of her before. And these were like 20, 30,000 follower accounts. So she had built up this entire network of bots slash whatever, and like where she's logging in and out of various accounts to hype herself up. And out of nowhere, like I start getting random things like freaking Randy starts getting in her corner and making up complete shit. Like find some dead company in the state of Texas and like ascribe, like, anyway, like just going down the list of different things. I'm like, what in the world is happening here? And Randy is that, the fake whale account. So I'm like, the only way that all these are tying together is I think Randy was the person behind it. So you start looking for people like that and you tick off that one wrong person. And it's like, you open up this can of worms. So that's the only downside, I think, of doxing. But then I think on the flip side of it, you dox and it like kind of takes away a lot of the leverage from certain situations like that.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you could be the next Zach XBT with all the research you did. But yeah, that's stressful, dude. I don't know. I feel like, let them work for it. If they're gonna find anything out, let them work for it. But yeah, crypto Twitter is a fun place. I think as long as you have good intentions, it can't really go wrong. You just have to be resilient at times and go with the flow.
Tracto, my man, what's up?
Hey, what's going on, y'all? So I've gone back and forth about this too, and especially with like going to a couple of IRL events. Like, I, I don't know. I feel like enough people know me on crypto Twitter that when they see, still no one knows what I look like in person except for the people I've met at these events. But I just, for me, it's about the people that I'm with, like in real life. So with the farm and everything, like I don't want to expose, any aspects of my life that don't need to be, that aren't really important to what I'm doing in Web3, to the people in Web3 that want to do any kind of, ill intent, anything like that. And again, it is just 1%, but it's still enough to not want me to dox. I would love to dox because I think it would be a blast. And I like that personal connection that you can have with people, on top of just using a PFP. But I don't know. It's still just, it's not worth that 1% risk right now. You know what I mean?
Like how Ben.eth got ran up on.
Yeah, that or the
Wait,
people that
Oh
did
Ben.eth
swap it
got ran
and
up on.
everything. Yeah.
Wait. What happened with Ben.eth? Did they actually figure out who he was?
Wait, was it No, actually, I don't know.
You're thinking of Polly,
yes, right? Yeah, I'm thinking of Polly. Same dude.
Yeah, same type of
Same
grip,
person.
right?
Yeah. No, yeah, Polly got ran up on and called the ambulance for a little scratch on his elbow. That was funny.
Well, dude, on top of that, it was funny reading. Did you read Bitlord's whole mental health break thing where he was like, he just finished raising 5 mil plus, and he posed on some stretcher with electro whatever to his head, saying that he needed a break for the Bahamas for a month. Doctor prescribed, and the more people funded the project, the more he was going to have to push it back. And there are people in there supporting it, and there's some just making fun of him supporting it. But then you see Polly Ox, and he's like, "Hey, massive risk," and you're just sitting there, and you're like, "This dude actually means it. He actually respects the grift."
That's just that is so bad. I think that the mental health break stuff is important, but it just cracks me up whenever it comes at a very convenient time. People are like, "All right, I went ahead and I raised $5 million. I'll see you guys in a month, and then we'll figure out what we want to do with it because we didn't have a business plan beforehand." And it's just like, wait, what?
I don't know. I have nothing good to say about him, so I'm not going to say anything. But yeah, if you're going to raise that much, at least have a plan and launch something. Even if it doesn't do well, at least give the people a chance. But yeah, I don't know. A lot of grifters in the space. What are you going to do?
Yeah. No, and Kaleo, I know you said that you had just taken a bit of a hard reset from Web3. I kind of just did the same thing. I went on a mission trip. I've been going for the past 12 years, and we went to Jamaica, and we did a lot of really, really cool stuff. And, during that time, I was limited internet access, and that has been amazing. Getting to come back. Obviously, I'm trying to get reacquainted with everything in Web3, but dude, it was the most awesome experience. It is crazy how Web3 is so self-serving in so many aspects. And when you go somewhere that people don't have as much as what we would consider to be the bare minimum, it really puts everything back in perspective. And I'm excited for everything coming this year in Web3, but also for me to kind of change up how I'm doing Web3.
Love that, man. Yeah, I mean, it does take that sometimes because you don't realize it. Where in a sense, like it's easy to get the lines blurred from this being a job and this being a hobby. And at a certain point, like, again, when it's what you do, it has become a job to that extent. And sometimes you need a break. And I think just with anything, like but taking 5 mil and then immediately running off, like that's different, right? Like,
Yeah.
but taking a few days, taking a week off just to be able to kind of reset, figure out what you want to do going into something, I think is a completely different approach, and it's something that's healthy, right? Where you need different perspective occasionally to be able to catch blind spots, right? And I think that's, like, looking into it, my big goal whenever I thought about doing this, I was like, honestly, the next 2 years are going to be absolute madness with the halving coming, the ETF this year, everything else coming on the regulatory front. Like, when you're looking at a bunch of the different raises that have been happening, like, the next 2 years, I really still believe are going to be bigger, on by another magnitude of scale than the previous bull market. And like, I know a couple people that disagree with me, that I respect. Like, it's funny, Bagsy, whenever I was in not Dubai, but in Singapore, I was having a conversation with Wolf of Poloniex, and he was convinced. He's like, dude, this is dead. He's like, we're not going to have another bull market for 6 years. And I'm like, I don't know, man.
Oh, no.
And I'm like,
When was this roughly?
This was September. He was like,
Okay.
he's like, alts are never going to come back. He's like, NFTs
Oh no.
have zero hope of anything. And he's like, the only thing that maybe has a chance is Bitcoin, but I don't even see it breaking new all-time highs in the next few years.
Shit. I mean, I've met Wolfie, and he's pretty smart. So I mean, yeah, that crypto has a way of sneaking up behind you and reminding you that it's still a really, or a really tiny asset. And yeah, I'm happy to prove them wrong in that sense. Feels good.
So what do you see happening over the next couple of years, Bagsy? Do you see after the ETF us just continuing to skyrocket? When, like, if slash when Bitcoin hits a new all-time high, if you had gun to your head right now to guess what time frame, when would it be?
Under 6 months. And that's being
Under 6 months. Okay.
That's being, I think reasonable. Just I just don't think people understand how much inflow can come from the ETFs once these big players start, pushing it, because they have a product to sell and they want to make money, right? So the ETF just validates the idea that it's not a complete scam, like they've been telling people for years now. But I don't know. It could take longer. It could take less time. Gun to my head, within 6 months. Having yeah, like I'm not selling anything right now. I'm just being patient, and like in my situation, I have a rainy day fund. Like I'm not going to be on the street if I'm wrong, so I can afford to take that line of I can afford to think this way. What about you? What do you think?
It's been, if you would have asked me a little over a year ago, my general, looking at the timeline of everything, I always was leaning toward later this year. But with the way everything's trending, man, I think I kind of agree with you that within 6 months is reasonable. I don't think it's one of those things you should bet the house on necessarily, just leverage yourself to the tits right now and say, we are guaranteed to go X% up after this ETF announcement, because two things could happen tomorrow, right? I mean, one, like they could deny it. There's a potential that we have
Yeah,
something that we don't expect, right? Like there is a chance. As much as people don't want to hear it, there is a chance. Two, is if it passes, again, you have to ask yourself, is it priced in? And a lot of the time, man, more times than not, what I've seen in this space, something is priced in. So I think it's one of those things where it's long-term bullish, regardless. For it'll be a catalyst, a huge catalyst throughout the cycle. It'll lead to higher highs if it is passed. But at the same time, I don't think that it's one of those things that it definitively means the day that it happens, there will be such a surge of demand that we immediately see, new all-time highs. So I wouldn't be surprised to still chop in this range for a little bit more before continuing higher. But, I think one way or the other, we are going to see new highs sometime this year.
Calio, up only, baby, up only.
Amen,
But
man.
no,
But that's the thing.
you're no, yeah, you're right. You're right. But yeah, that's all I said. If you mortgage your house at these prices, good luck. The time to mortgage it was when no one wanted to buy it and FTX blew up. And in hindsight, it's obvious to look at it that way.
Yeah, the time
But
to go
no,
all in was at stub 12K or 1200 ETH when I asked Kaleo if I should sell my car and just go all in on ETH, and he said no. And then my car gets stolen anyway, and I get a check 100% up later.
No, it's
no.
all bad.
I said you need a car to drive, man. Like you still need a car. I'm not gonna.
I was waiting for like
You
the
live in
bright
America.
side,
You didn't
and
live
it
in the
didn't
US.
come.
Well, I wouldn't need to be driving anywhere if I went all in on Ethereum sub 1200.
My bad. You'd be at 2,400 right now. Like
This guy could have had 30 ETH and a bicycle at the moment. He'd be fucking happy.
Oh no. God, I love it. Crypto, man. It's
dude, the
freaking
only
insane.
person I know with like the type of balls to hold that long for that long. Oh gosh, why am I blanking on his name, Bagsy? You
It's
know who I'm
every
talking
community member who's been with Wonky Stonks since 2021. Those are your diamond handers right there.
That's true, but with leverage positions,
Yeah, I don't know who would hold it that long.
NFTs
the
are
only person I
leveraged.
know is what's his name, SoCal, who held like that
Oh
position. You know what I'm talking about,
from like
Bagsy? Like
6K. Yeah, of course.
that's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. As far as holding a leverage position for that long, I don't know anybody that is holding it for a year. Like that, just nobody does that. You know, like the odds of you like nailing it perfectly and not having the majority of that profit eaten away by maintenance margin throughout the period is no, it's just not happening.
Yeah,
You
I
got
don't want to do the
it.
math on my 50x Sol long at $21. I was in we were trading in Room 110 Discord. I was like, I feel like this could be the forever long that I just sit on. I sold it at like 600% in the profits, and I don't even want to do the math on what that would be.
Oh boy.
Oh, dude, that was like my bonk long. Like,
Oh
so
no.
I logged bonk back at the very beginning of November, Bagsy. I've got a tweet with it where I had a pretty dang large position. I think, I mean, it wasn't large at the time, right? Like, you know, but I think it was 30 million or something, 30 million times 1,000. So, you know, the 1,000 bonk, which had I held on to that, I mean, like, again, I sold it for, you know, a 2 or 3x, whatever it was, whenever it went up from 0.000 whatever, you know, 10,000 to like 20,000. And now it's up at like still 128,000. Like it just looking at how that went up only, and I felt pretty dang good about taking that, you know, 2 or 3x whatever I hit it. That was painful.
Oh, that reminds me of the dude who had shared his leverage position. It's like
The
12
12
million
mil
or
guy.
something. Oh, I wonder what happened to him, man. I remember
Apparently he
Ledger was
still has it
trying
open.
to. Really good for him.
I
That's heart.
saw an
That's
update
heart
on
right
that
there.
yesterday.
That's
James
heart.
Jamesy posted something about it. He wondered what happened to the guy. And there were multiple people that apparently, I don't know if this guy just has a Telegram or Discord where he's updating it, but apparently he's still up a few mil and he's just holding on
Oh
to it.
fuck. There he's like, that's crazy.
Jeez.
That's
That
guts
is
right
freaking
there.
awesome. You like to see it though, you know. We pay for him so much stuff. You like to see somebody win something.
I mean, he hasn't won. He
He
hasn't
hasn't
won
won
yet,
yet.
but he's in it. He's in the race.
Well, you say he's still up a couple mil.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah,
he
but
is, but I'll say this funding on that type of position with like that adds up pretty quickly also, man. Like when you're starting to hold that open for weeks at a time, you're starting to pay a crap ton. And so, you know, I don't know how long he's planning on holding this. Say that it just maintains the current price that it's at, and he wants to hold it for another, you know, 3 or 4 months before it makes another leg up. You know, he's paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in funding fees to be able to keep that position open. You know, potentially. I don't know. I'd have to look and see. Like, I'd have to do the real math on how ridiculous it is right now to hold open. But I don't know. Like, that's what I looked at where I didn't even realize back when I was trading super high volume, just super high degen stuff, FTX, 2021, you know, at the end of the year, I paid 1.8 million just in funding fees, not in, you know, regular trading fees, but 1.8 million funding, another 1.6 in trading fees. So
they loved you.
yeah, they did, man. There's a reason. There's a reason they love me.
I'm sure they were very smart with your money, Kaleo.
What's that? Yeah, they were very
Yeah.
smart with all that profit. You know, if they just had another 1,000 Cleos, they wouldn't have gone under.
Man,
Man, that is
how
insane.
long do you think Binance is going to be around in 3 years?
Man, after the recent, I lean toward yes. Like, I lean toward what happened with the SEC was huge.
Mm-hmm.
And if they didn't collapse throughout what happened over the course of the past couple of years with that massive liquidation cascade across the industry, I don't really see what's left to tackle them unless they just do something, really egregious and stupid and greedy, right? Because that's really what it's going to take at this point. Because I feel like, again, you solve things with the SEC, you pay that major fine, you almost have a clean slate in a certain sense, right? So what is it at that point from there on out that is going to tackle them? The only thing that I could really see, and it wouldn't necessarily surprise me, the SEC, I feel like their stance on certain regulation evolves by the day. So it wouldn't completely shock me as things grow if they end up growing or trying to grow their reach over certain categories again. And, that being one of them, where, looking at the major exchanges and making something illegal that might not have necessarily been illegal at the time that they solved it. So that would be the only black swan event that would maybe, but as far as from a solvency perspective, I don't think that it's going down the same way that FTX and some of those others did. I don't know. What's your take?
Yeah, I think that's fair. As long as there's a lot of liquidity and the new CEO is able to vocalize his thoughts as well as CZ did, or at least if he's as memeable as CZ is, then they'll keep a large amount of interest in trading there. I'm curious to see you know, what kind of exchanges will pop up now that bigger players are there. That's going to be interesting to me because obviously, BlackRock and all these guys are going to want to own a huge market share of trading volume too. Now that they have an ETF that will eventually get approved, whether it's tomorrow or in 6 months or whatever. So,
Do you think they create their own exchange or invest heavily in something like a Kraken that, isn't necessarily public yet, that they might be able to, just buy out a large percentage, already has the framework, a lot of the regulatory boxes checked. I don't know. I could see something like that potentially happening. The bigger
I
question,
would say I'd say both. I would say
yeah,
both. I would say the ones that don't want to take on the risk will invest in Kraken. The ones who have all the connections, know all the market makers, can do it properly, will create their own and try and get a piece of the pie. That's my thought. And whether people will go there or not, the degens might not. Maybe they will if liquidity is good and it's not too predatory and it makes sense and they list the right shit coins. But at the same time, I feel they're going to be very strict with what they list. So there's still going to be a lot of trading going on Bybit and whatever other exchanges people trade on. So it'll be a bit of both. But I could definitely see a world where they'll create their own exchanges and try and suck up as much liquidity as possible.
yeah, the exchange narrative is going to be a really interesting one to track over the next few years too, because I think you're right. The bigger question isn't, in my opinion, whether or not Binance will exist anymore. It's, will Binance maintain their spot at number one?
That's actually what I meant to ask. I didn't phrase it properly, but yeah, no, I absolutely.
And that's a tough one, man. I think they will, but I also do think there's real opportunity for something new. You know,
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see how Armani's backpack exchange unfolds. To be honest,
yeah, like Backpack is one I'm really keeping track of. I think that one has real potential.
Yeah, and they're based out of Dubai, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
is
and I know
it is
they've
it
got a
Dubai
lot
or
of.
Japan?
I'm. It could be both, but I'm 80% convinced it's Dubai. But maybe I don't know. I could be pulling names out of my ass. Um, but yeah, like I'm curious what will happen to decentralized perp exchanges like GMX and Rabbit and all these, you know, all these places. I wonder, because I'm convinced that the SEC is going to try to gain something from them eventually, and I'm not looking forward to that. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, that's the other thing to keep track of, right? Is the whole Dex narrative, and to a certain extent, like the deal with the SEC is it's impossible to really tackle every single one of them. What they do, they make an example of one. It takes a long time before they have everything they need to be able to tackle the second. Things operate slowly, but it's that fear of the one that was taken down that really sets the precedent for what the rest are going to do, right? Look at the KYC front, where, it started back in the day where, 4 years ago, you really didn't have KYC on any of these major exchanges that offered derivatives. And then you slowly started to see it trickle down, right? You started to see after what happened to BitMEX. People were scared. You started to see implementation from, FTX put a light one on there. Binance ended up being a bit more strict. And then finally this past year, you started having some of the last holdouts like Bybit and BitGet that ended up doing it. And you've only got a couple left that really haven't. And the thing is, you look at it, you pay a price for, you know basically the ones that are less regulated. Again, they're sketchier, so the price that you pay is the confidence in the exchange, and the confidence in your assets and what's going to end up happening. Are you going, to get this major clawback from who was it that was just doing that recently with the clawbacks? uh
Uh,
Gate. No,
Mexi
not
or
Gate.
no?
Mexi. I think that's it.
Yeah,
Right. So there's certain things like that that you have as a trade-off. So I think it's the same type of thing that you're going to end up seeing with the DEX game, where for a DEX to operate really effectively and efficiently, like any other exchange, you need liquidity, right? And whenever you start to really, tackle the major, the major DEXs, you'll have others that pop up, but will people really be willing to trade on them with certain, tolerance as far as slippage, product offering, contract audits? Like, do you really trust what's happening with the contract? Do you think something's going to happen like a Mango Markets? Have you done your full due diligence on that type of stuff? So it just is one of those things where even the DEX game, as much as people are pushing it, and as much as I do think it'll be part of this next cycle, there's still just this element of intuition and trust where I don't think that it's possible to fully overtake the centralized exchanges as far as volume.
yeah. Um,
Especially ease of
it,
access too. Like most normies won't even know how to trade on a DEX or even know how to connect a wallet to one. So yeah, I agree. Most volume's probably going to stay on major exchanges, but yeah, there's going to be extreme amount of volume coming in both directions because a lot of people that are here right now don't even want to buy any of the majors. So they're chasing, the sub 100K meme coins, trying to hit the next 1000X because they think that's the only way you're able to make it now.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, that was a long-winded answer toward it. I mean, Dexes are definitely going to have a huge narrative this next cycle, but I just don't think that any of them are quite as safe of an option as a lot of people paint them to be. Like the point being, regardless of where you store your assets, not your keys, not your coins. And I get on a DEX, like whenever you've got it locked in any sort of protocol, if there's anything I've learned over the course of the past couple of years, it's a lot of these things that seem like they are bulletproof aren't necessarily bulletproof. And, again, when you're looking down the line, even if it's not necessarily the contract risk, it all goes back to the regulatory risk of, say something happens where the domain is seized and, the contract officially still works on the back end. You can still do everything you need to. It is what is the fallout from, those positions as everybody is trying to escape them on that exchange. Are you going to, have the same type of liquidity that you really expected to be able to trade efficiently on there? I don't know. So,
Yeah, I think it's less bad, because at least in that case, you would be risking the position that you're trading, and your assets wouldn't be deposited on that DEX necessarily, unless you're providing liquidity on GMX or one of these.
yeah.
So, the risk is your position gets liquidated. Okay. But at least, your account risk isn't there. So it's kind of like a lesser evil in a way. Like a lot of us got burnt with FTX, and that was a lesson. But at least in this case, it's just, what are you actively trading on that DEX? And yeah, I mean, as long as the DEX doesn't get exploited and it's able to drain your entire wallet, that, it hasn't happened yet with any of the major ones, and hopefully it never happens, knock on wood. I don't have any wood around me, so someone knock on something. But I still think it's probably a bit better. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, yeah, the
Callie,
only major DEX I can think of that was drained right off the top of my head is Mango, right?
Yeah. Thankfully, that didn't hit me.
Yeah,
thankfully, but that was rough though. And what was the name of the dude? Avi, I think.
Avi, yes.
Man, he's not having a good time.
He's facing jail time, right?
It's not good. I mean, it's good, but it's not good for him. He was very cocky. Code is, what was it? Code is law, or I forget the saying. Yeah.
Was Mango the one that Antonio Brown just showed on Twitter like a couple weeks ago or something?
No, that was a random Ansem shitcoin, I think. Unless I missed something else. That was fucking funny. Bro.
Yeah, that was pretty amusing.
No shame.
Tracto, what's up, man?
Hey, man. All right, I gotta hop off here. I got a meeting I gotta jump into, but I just want to say, great space, lots of alpha, and you know what's coming next. Are you ready, Kalia? Are you ready? Yeah. Hit me back in DMs when you get a chance, brother.
All right, man. I will.
Take care, Tracto.
One of these days, it'll happen.
Hey, man, we're gonna run out of time, and then it's just gonna be like, man, we could have been great together, Kalia. Could have been great together.
Could have been, man. All right.
Appreciate you coming up, man. Look forward to hearing from you. Seeing y'all.
Now, but okay, so outside of that narrative, I am curious what your take on the NFT space is, because officially this is, an NFT oriented space. I'm curious, what is your take on the next couple of years, Bagsy? Are you a believer that we'll see some type of bull market again with NFTs? Or do you think that what we saw last cycle is it? Do you think there will be an evolution as far as what they'll look like? I'm just curious your take in general.
I mean, I'm giga bullish on NFTs. I own Wonky Stonks. I own a lot of different things. I don't think digital ownership is going anywhere. I think there are a lot of people that are doing it right. Off the top of my head, Pudgy Penguins, Campfire Pandas. There's going to be a lot of cool things. Where do I think it's going? I, I wish I knew. I don't have that much insight on the NFT circle, but no, I really think it's cool that Pudgy Penguins were allowed to, or were able to, get their product into Walmart, and having kids purchase little plushies that are cute. They don't even realize it's an NFT, and then you can scan a QR code, create a game out of it. There's going to be more and more ways that projects are able to make that bridge between, this complicated NFT wallet crypto world that we're in, and just, buying something cute for your kid that can eventually, become something else. So I'm I, I'm really bullish on it, and I actually want to know what you're thinking, because obviously you're very in touch with it.
Dude, I am giga bullish on NFTs also. I still think that the most opportunities for the average person, you've got a lot less institutional competition when it comes to NFTs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's one huge advantage. And when you're just looking at the overall narrative of it, you're going to have the same percentage of NFTs that pop up as new projects that fail as you do with any other altcoin, meme coin, etc. So from a risk perspective, I think it's really similar there. The only perspective that's a little bit different that a lot of people will argue is the liquidity perspective. But I mean, it is a different asset. Like, it's expected to trade differently than, it's like any other collectible item, right? So I think just from an intuitive, getting to the masses, NFTs make more sense to me than anything else, right? Like, when you're talking about the average person really getting plugged into this space, digital collectibles, digital ownership. I mean, heck, even from the perspective of gaming, there's some people that I know that are not bullish on, crypto Web3 gaming. I think that there are a lot of really intuitive applications. It's just about finding the right game to be able to push it. Like, if you have a bad game, nobody's going to want to play it, whether it's Web3 or not Web3. If you've got a good game, people are going to want to play it. And I think NFTs are a really easy native integration that could be worked into it, where, what it comes back to is, if you can do something and integrate it into something else without people even realize what they're necessarily buying is an NFT, I think that also adds to it. But there are just so many different verticals that NFTs could take on. I don't think that it's necessarily going to be the type of vertical where, what Ledger talked about on Up Only back in 2021 early on, where he was like, cars on the blockchain. I don't necessarily think that's it. Unless it's like, maybe ownership of cars in the game, or cool NFTs.
Rooster could get his car back.
Yeah, Rooster could get his car back. Like, imagine dealing with insurance with NFTs. Like,
dude, I'm literally like getting the last shit out of my car right now because the tow man's gonna come and pick it up. Like, I'm literally digging through crackhead must.
Brother's cleaning out his car right now. He's like, I wish I could sell this on the blockchain. Fuck.
But imagine when you're like getting that final check when it's totaled, you've got to burn it. Does that burn the car? No. So it should. I like, it'd be amazing for you if it would. But yeah, man, so I just look at a lot of that where you've got provenance that is a huge thing. I mean, I think that it does translate, where there are certain projects, certain ideas that, like, just because of when they came about, dude, I think we're going to have 100,000. Like, we had 10,000, 10K PFP collections became the norm this last cycle. I'm so bullish on the growth of this industry as a whole. I think there are going to be so many people that are involved in crypto, that are interested, that are trying to ride the wave, that we'll have 100,000 PFP collections that end up selling out, right? Like, we are going to have an insane surge of demand because there's going to be an insane surge of people that are just interested in this. And again, it just goes back to, what is the most intuitive application for the average person to understand? Is it some random, coin about a dog, or is it a random coin with a hat? I don't think that that's as intuitive as saying that you own a collectible and having a wallet that you can flex that on certain platforms. So I'm hugely bullish on NFTs.
Yeah, and all it takes is one. All it takes is one project to launch 100,000 collectible, and it works. And then it's just going to expand further. So yeah, no, we definitely agree. I was actually on a space with Function about 2 hours ago, and what is there one thing about a project that you look at and you're like, this is a winner, like one metric, one particular thing that makes you want to look into it more? Or is there anything in that line of thought?
There's certain things I look at, like, for instance, why back in 2022 in that summer, why I was hugely bullish on Pudgy Penguins, for instance, was because I just kept seeing them on my timeline, even though price wasn't going up, right? Like, so I just thought about it as one of those things where I'm like, there's a reason behind this. So same type of thing with just about any project, man. If you are constantly seeing it from people that you're plugged into, there's probably a reason for it. So then you've got to look down the line and say, okay, what are the other potential catalysts to push this forward? Does it have anybody in place that's really running the ship? Is there some type of, and if not, like, within the community itself, do you have vocal community leaders that really are like pushing? So I think that so much of it really does revolve around that, because again, it's something where, with any type of collection, for it to really have any type of lasting effect, you've got to have people that know about it. Again, what's the word of mouth? How are you going to get it out there in the first place? And then from there, I mean, I don't know, man. I think that we're going to have a lot of different metas that end up pushing forward, but I still think a lot of it just loops back to, general activity throughout a period of time. If you're looking through old projects and, what is happening with it right then? Like, are they waiting? For instance, last December/January, in 2022, January 2023, there were a lot of projects that hadn't sent out a tweet for like 4 months. And because the NFT space as a whole were going up, there were different people that were like, oh, this thing might go up. So everybody just started buying it. And you saw these dead cat bounces off the floor. But when you looked at it from a bigger perspective, it's like, boom, these projects are sending out their first tweet in 4 months. Whenever everything turns south, what's going to be the first thing that people cut? It's going to be the thing that they don't really care about. So, I think that's another huge part of it, right? Is evaluating. Yeah, you could probably sweep a bunch of different collections right now that you haven't heard of in forever, like, the Tubby Cats, right? I haven't really heard anything about Tubbies in forever. There will probably be a day where Tubbies, end up lifting off again for a little bit, but like, is it sustainable? Do they really have a community that's out there? Are they doing anything for it? Right. And, you can go down the list of other various projects in that boat. I just think that that's kind of the defining factor for what your analysis has to be. There has to be something to be able to keep it going.
Yeah, that's that's great. I have an example. So for Pudgy Penguins, I made a tweet last December. So 2 Decembers ago, so 2022, and I made a tweet like, I'm never buying a Pudgy Penguin. I was giga bullish on it. Giga bearish on it. And then Luca took over, and I randomly joined a Twitter space one day. I was drunk, and I was like, oh fuck it, like what are they doing? And everyone was so bullish. Like the whole community was there, and I was like, oh, did I miss something? Has something changed? And yeah, after that, I bought a couple, and just it everything shifted from the point that it changed hands. And I was like, wow, like this is different. So yeah, no, 100%. The community is everything. And yeah, and it takes a good leader too. If you have a leader who's vocal, like Calio or Luca, Frank, any of these guys, it takes someone who's present, who has good ideas, who cares about the community, and who wants to make it work. So that's usually what I look for. And also ice bags, for example. I was just in an interview, or I was listening to an interview with ice bags, and yeah, Giga Smart, love him. So yeah, leader first, and then strong community, and you can't go wrong. Or you could buy 20 different NFTs from projects that kind of died off, and hopefully some of them pick up. Maybe Zach XBT makes a thread and they start tweeting again. That's all it takes.
That is, man. So, Lander, what's up, man? Welcome up to the stage.
What is going on, guys? Hope everyone's having a great new year. I'm in office today, so can't be here long. Kind of escaped to a conference room for a bit to talk, but was listening to the space. A little behind now at this point, but I wanted to say I was watching I enjoy a YouTube channel called Peter Santinello. He just goes around and talks to like random people in the States, but he was interviewing a dairy farmer, and she actually went into how she sells her cows, and she actually lists every one of her cows as NFTs and sells the cows as NFTs. So that was just a real life use case I thought was cool that I stumbled across.
Cows on the blockchain, not cars, cows.
Cows.
Milk on the blockchain.
Yeah, I hope everyone's having a great new year.
Thanks, Lander. That's cool, though. I like that. Blobs would be happy. You can get his full fat milk on the blockchain.
Yeah, it's again what makes, I think, just NFTs, I think, a little bit more interesting to even talk about than a lot of different coins, because you sit there and like look at the activity on the feed between this cycle and last cycle, Bagsy. And I know you were there and super active for both. I mean, there was an insane difference, and I really think the majority of the added activity came from people that were involved in different NFT projects, right? Like the people that really stuck around more than anything weren't even necessarily the traders. They were the NFT degens.
Yeah, that's especially true for Solana. Like in the bear market, the NFT people carried the engagement. And I think it's, due to being able to pull an identity from it, and also the community aspect, obviously. But it's art, man. Sometimes you just buy something, you put it on your wall, and you just love it, and you have this special connection. And that's the really cool thing about NFTs is sometimes it'll keep you engaged, and you can make friends through it. It's not like a shit coin where you just buy it and you're trying to make money. It's a bit more than that for a lot of people. And yeah, man, this is a great space. Not only the Twitter space, but just in general. It's a really good way to make friends if you're open to it.
No, I agree. And that's one thing I really want to shift back to doing this year more frequently. I took a big break from Twitter Spaces. I feel like the second half of this past year. And yeah, like I miss it. I think there is an element to Twitter Spaces that is really unique in the fact that you do make a lot of connections, where anytime that I've met somebody that I've had conversations with on Spaces in person, that conversation immediately picks back up and flows like like you've known each other for a long period of time, a lot more effectively than just being able to BS back and forth about tweets, whatever else. Like it's real. And there are a lot of opportunities that I think that do spring from it. And more than that, it's almost going back to talking about how being in a room with people, you generate different ideas. You BS long enough with people on spaces, there are ideas that are generated. You hear about what's happening in the market. You hear different perspectives that challenge your own. It's important not to keep yourself just in a constant echo chamber, which, as much as I love streaming too, because I think there are a lot of elements of, getting direct live feedback from the audience, which you really like. That's one of my biggest gripes with spaces. I would love it. And I think that it would just take spaces to another level completely. If there was a sidebar or a tab that you could pull up at the bottom where everybody could be chatting live, right, about what's happening in the space. Like
That's smart.
You just click the tab. It doesn't have to pop up on the main feed, but you're engaging with people directly there. I think that would take spaces to the next level. That's the only thing that it's really still missing. But outside of that, the interaction that you get with the people on stage is still huge.
Yeah, I actually never thought about that. That would definitely be cool. Then you might need moderators, though. But yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. There are a lot of cool things I'm looking forward to this next year. I'm definitely going to start back more on the spaces grind. Want to do something daily with that. Want to do something daily with streaming again. There are a lot of things I'm working toward right now that I've got some ideas that I think could be cool. I think with the platform that we've been given, one of the things that really hit me over the course of the past week that I took off was just, I look at Kobe, right? Kobe never talks about anything trading related. And he's, for a reason. He said a long time ago, he just realized that it wasn't plus EV. And I really think the larger your account grows, the more minus EV that it really gets to talk about any potential trade setups on Twitter. Whether you are winning or losing, in a sense, you're always losing because there's always a percentage of the population on here that will disagree with you, right? So it is, I think, way higher EV to be able to just focus primarily on what is the pulse of the industry as a whole. So that's another one of my goals for this year is to be able to just shift more of my content that direction from just sharing primarily charts, right? Because sharing charts, again, it's just one of those things where, it you go through stretches where you feel like you're in god mode, whatever else is happening, but you also feel the weight of the stretches where you're not. And when you are in that, I think that's one of the things where I looked at the past week where what really triggered me, where I was like, okay, I need to step back and reevaluate. I've been a terrible stretch of public calls, and then again, a lot of those calls I've been taking myself. So the trading just hasn't been up to par with where I think it should be considering the market conditions. And I'm like, dude, I just think that it is healthier to be able to cut back because, again, as you're sharing it, messes with your psyche of what you're doing. It affects your decisions with those trades as well. So, again, it's just one of those things where shifting the content, I think it makes sense when you're a smaller account to be able to do it more. But again, the larger you grow, it just becomes less and less profitable from any sense to be able to keep that your primary focus.
Yeah. I think someone who does it well is probably Hisaka. It's more of a broad stroke than a enter here, a stop loss here, target there type of thing. But yeah, I took a big step back from that a long time ago, and yeah, it's about trying to find ways to be valuable to people without, necessarily giving setups. Because even when you give a setup, someone can still fuck it up, and you don't want people to lose money, obviously. And you can go through really good stretches and then really bad stretches. It's just part of it.
And that's what I'm saying. Even when you're winning, you're losing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think we're on the same page. I'm gonna have to strategize and sit down on how to do it better.
Say, man, it's tough because there's still part of you that chases, or at least that's one of the things I realized too. I'm like, what has really incentivized it. And I think there's part of me that still chases that high from when I first created this account. A lot of what ended up growing it were, the incredible, like the high P&Ls, the whatever setups, that just the god tier fractals that played out perfectly for whatever stretch. And you're
Yeah.
like, you chase the high of that feeling again, and you're like, you want it back, right? You want to walk out on that good stretch. And I'm like, honestly, at the end of the day, what is the real point of that, right? Like, it's just pride. So, outside of that, there's nothing else that's really benefiting from this. So I don't know. So that's kind of my goal. Not to say that I won't share any charts moving forward. I definitely I'll share some, but I'm gonna try my hardest to really, do super high level as much as I can with certain ideas, and focus, which it's gonna take time, to be able to really shift fully over to it, but shift more on just connecting with people, focusing on these type of spaces, and just commentary on the fundamentals of whatever's happening, right? Like, what drew me to crypto in the first place.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
And become a full Wonky Stonks show.
Let's
Hey,
go.
hey, I am a full Wonky Stonks shill. I like it's the stocks are inevitable. I do believe it, man. I really do. Right? Like, if I don't release something into this world and then let it die. You know, Even if it's a free mint, doesn't matter what it is. I think the provenance, uniqueness of it, there will be a time when the Wonky Stonks have their day. Um, Mr. Owen, welcome up to the stage, man. How's it going?
Hey, what's going on? Good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. How you been?
Just riding the waves as best that I can. I forgot my surfboard, but here we are. Anyway, um, yeah. For those of you who don't know, I met Kaleo through the infamous arena. Um, and yeah, I'm a musician. I do things related to music. I actually just submitted. I don't know if you guys are aware. Optimism had this like pretty insane funding round or grant program for artists. I think like they're giving away like over 1 million Optimism tokens to artists who deploy on there. So I sort of like, in typical fashion, went and minted a piece like 20 minutes before the deadline, and feels good, man. Taking big swings. Let's go.
So wait, did they, upon the mint, whenever you minted it on there, do they immediately does that just go on an application and then they potentially pay out X amount for doing it? How does that work?
No, so I guess the way they have several different categories. They have what was immediately appealing to me is they had a category specifically for music, which is pretty uncommon in this space, frankly. Like as a category, music hasn't really been developed. It's kind of in like this weird spot. So that obviously struck me as an opportunity, but I think there are like 2 grand prize winners per category, and then like second tier, third tier, fourth tier prizes, and there's some sort of commission of people who are deciding it, and I think it includes Mark Zuckerberg's sister. Lol. But yeah, it should be interesting.
Of course, Randy is on there, man, because we all need to hear. Wait, what was her infamous song this last cycle that we're all gonna
We're
make it?
all gonna make it. Yeah, yeah, bro.
We're all gonna make it.
You know that shit's a cover, right?
Hey, is she still promoting hug lists instead of white lists?
Oh man, I don't. I'm actually not even aware of Hug List. That sounds wrong to me, but
Dude,
okay.
she said that crypto or Web3 needs to move on from um, outdated language and get rid of things like whitelist and basically the cancel culture thing, move it over to hug list instead.
It's just, I mean, okay, but like choose a better replacement name. Like no degen is going like no, especially if they have sort of inferiority complex around their masculinity. No fucking degen is going to use the term hug list ever.
I don't know. Actually, like if somebody paid me enough, I would probably use the term hug list. You know, if I'm sitting there and they're like,
Yeah, but I get the sense that you have like
there's a
you have a
price
lot
for
of
everything.
confidence.
There's a price for the term hug list, and I'm sure there is a number. I'm not sure what that is that I would use hug list for.
Yeah, it's like don't stop trying to make fetch a thing, Like it's fetch ain't a thing, bro. Um, the brown list, how about that?
Dude, I don't know. I feel like the more we dive down into this, the worse it'll get. So,
Oh, definitely. It's a feature, not a bug.
yeah. That is exciting though. So optimism with that, like, was your collection a one of one? Was it, a,
Well, so I've been sort of like planning a grand collection for a while. I've been just sort of looking for the right opportunity conditions, like frankly building my own stature enough to be like credible, to do the kinds of things I want to do. So I actually haven't released any NFTs till now. This was just sort of like too good a opportunity not to try and go for. So I submitted in two categories. I submitted a one of one, which is a video where I shot it for like $1,000 with one of my best friends, he's like a insane VFX editor who does stuff for like Star Trek and shit. So we managed to like stretch a small budget pretty far, and the video is pretty cool. And then I submitted a limited edition of my song "Story of a Degen," which chronicles the tale of a dude who comes into the space and blows up his account trading shitcoins. Many such cases. Um, so yeah, I think at least from what they say, the judging is like unrelated to demand, unrelated to anything but sort of quality of the art, and they have like several categories that they evaluate it on. So these processes are almost always political. So I have no expectations, but fuck around and find out, right?
love that, man. I love the fact that you saw the window, you saw the opportunity, and you took it because realistically, that's what so much of this space is about, right? It is about keeping your finger on the pulse, figuring out what's happening, and taking advantage of those opportunities as you get there. Another thing that I've really shifted toward throughout the course of the past year is just the idea of how much activity is going to happen cross chain, right? Like, as much as I like ETH's provenance, and I think that, its security, even though there's some things that are getting a little bit shakier there from the perspective of staking and, looking at how much of a percentage Lido has and et cetera, et cetera. Like, I still think its security does trump, you know, eh, other L1s at this point, like obviously at a cost. But, at that point, to that point, I still think that you're going to have a lot of different growth on chains like AVAX, like Sol, like Optimism. You can go down the list of the different chains that are out there right now. Injective is really like you're going to have a lot of these micro ecosystems that do cross over, right? You're going to have cross chain activity between them, and there's enough demand, there's enough people that are going to be active to be able to support these ecosystems, right? It is not an ETH and ETH only world anymore.
I think it's kind of interesting how I think like more and more you're going to start seeing these ecosystems fracture over like ideological grounds. Like, ETH maxis are going to do their thing, and like some ETH maxis are like going to be like cool, L2s are great, but some L2s like based on, the way they function, the kinds of stuff they track, maybe they don't like that. Maybe they don't like some of those features. Optimism is big on sort of attribution, on chain identity, all these types of things. So, like, it seems like they're all kind of developing in not exactly parallel directions. Like everybody's trying to find market fit, everybody's trying to find like that thing that's gonna, sort of differentiate them. And I'm not an institution. Um, I think I have a better sense, I guess, from like the retail point of view, like just based on like what's appealing to me. Um, but like there are always like games being played that are like, you know, above my pay grade. So it's hard to sort of parse some of this stuff, at least for me.
Yeah, you know, I just think that looking back on it right now, and another one of my reflections from this past week, they're just when you spend enough time just looking at charts, it's easy to kind of lose sight of what's happening from the technical side and the fundamental side of things, where I really want to focus more on just what is happening from that perspective, right? Because if you're really looking at the highest growth opportunities to effectively understand them, a lot of it you have to actively participate in them, whether it's doing some degen shit like getting on. I mean, heck, even with getting on Stars Arena, honestly, man, I had not done anything really in the AVAX ecosystem until I did that, and it just made it a lot easier to intuitively understand a lot of the stuff that's happening there. You have to actively participate on chain to really, and NFTs are a huge part of that, right? Where you're going to have NFTs, like, heck, look at what the pandas have done with Layer Zero and how they've got cross chain. A lot of stuff has been bridged over to ETH, but you still have some pandas that live on all these different chains that are out there. um there are different opportunities to really participate. And I think if you just narrow your scope fully to saying, hey, the price of X is going to be Y by this date and this time without going below X price, like, you're really losing sight of the beauty of this space in general, right? Of why there's real intrinsic value that's here and what's going to continue to propel it forward and what is going to make it the highest growth sector out of any market over the next couple decades. It's not just the volatility, right? The volatility is fun. It is a byproduct of that. It's part of the risk that you get. It's part of what lures people in, but it's not what the staying power is, right? You're not going to have that volatility without the opportunity that precedes it.
Yeah, one of the things I've been thinking a lot, like as it pertains to what I do, because like as I don't know how familiar you are with my like base case around SocialFi or what it was, but just like the idea that eventually there will be like people who are more like consumers than investors in this space, like in order for this space to grow beyond like a degen playground, that has to happen at some point. Like I don't know over what time scale it occurs, but like I think specifically around music, it's a little weird because fine art, for instance, has this concept of provenance, and that has existed within fine art for like centuries, millennia. Um, music, recorded music, has only existed, like a little over a century. So the concept and the idea of provenance doesn't exist in the same way. Also, because like since the inception of recorded music, the feature was replicability, that you could make things at scale, and like it has been a business of lowering margins, lowering costs, to achieve like larger scale, be able to distribute to more users, right? So like as far as like product market fit goes, it's weird as a musician to be here because like you're trying to sort of marry the idea of scarcity, like artificial scarcity in a luxury product, with how music is traditionally understood as like a low margin, high volume business, selling songs for 99 cents on iTunes or whatever. So I know, like, for my part, I'm trying to figure that shit out because it's, it's not, so to speak, easy. But I do see, it does seem like more ecosystems are trying, at least in part of their initiatives, to approach things through that lens. And just like, whether the users come or the consumers come or customers come, whatever you want to call it, I have no way to predict that, but that's ultimately a future that like I'd like to try and build for.
No, I see what you're saying, dude. Like, Rolling Loud released the NFT project sometime last year, and it was actually a pretty cool product. It was lifetime VIP tickets to every single event, and they were selling. Mint was like $1,500 or something, or maybe like $2,000. Wasn't even anything crazy. and a VIP ticket costs $1,000, right? And a lot of people would say it would have flopped. I think it only ended up minting out like 30-40% of what the target was, like a few thousand out of 10,000 or something like that. The idea is pretty cool. Still think it is, but you don't really hear a lot of noise
Can I
coming
tell
from
you
it.
why I'm highly skeptical of that? Because
Because
NFTs are immutable. Like you create this thing, you're saying that's not a lifetime pass, that's a forever pass, right? Like how do you predict whether that business will be in operation in a year or two?
no, sure, yeah. I mean, that is the biggest question, right? I mean, they have been operating for quite a few years, and in terms and condition, they pretty much, can pull it at any time. But even if they had 7 events scheduled last year or something, so even if you go to 2 of them, right, you get your money's worth. Um, so I just felt like the risk. I ended up minting a few. Ended up actually taking my girlfriend to one. I didn't hold on to them or anything, just because if I wanted to go again, I could buy one. Or even
Of course.
Pandas, they bought 20 of them, and
How were the
they
events cool?
yeah, no, it was actually the first one I went to was in LA. Saw a bunch of people I hadn't seen, and there's an open bar for the NFT holders. So
That's fun.
yeah, it was pretty dope actually.
You know what's funny? It's just random, but two of my college buddies, this was about a year ago, just hit me up and they were like, "Hey, you wanna come see the Winklevi?" I was like, "What?" They're like, "Oh yeah, we're touring with the Winklevi right now, and they have like an open bar and free food if like you come watch this show." And I
The
fucking went
Winklevi
there.
twins.
Yeah, yeah. They were on. They were doing like a little music tour,
Yeah,
and they
I
just like
remember. I remember that.
fucking amazing. These guys are touring. They had like they're basically like paying people to come to their shows, right? So incentives. And I saw their tour setup rig, and it's like they have the tour bus for the musicians, and then each Winklevi like had their own black Escalade that they were also touring around in, which is like just hilarious to think about the economics of that as like somebody who's actually toured for a living. Like, you're driving an Escalade like hundreds and hundreds of miles, and you have tour buses. I mean, fucking, I can't knock it because those guys are just like, fuck it, we want to live our dream, and we have the money to do it, and they're doing it. And they hired like great musicians, and the band sounded pretty good. I can't lie. The Winklevosses, yeah, living their best lives.
That's amazing. um, and a lot of that, like, it all comes from just being active here, right? You don't have a lot of those opportunities in the first place if you're not active, if you're not randomly showing up on these spaces, making those connections. You're not going to be at the front of people's minds for saying, oh, like Owen would be an interesting guy to invite and like let him know about this. It just doesn't happen without the social scene. So I think going back to the conversation around NFTs is you just have so much more of a natural social element that is incorporated into them than you do with a lot of other tokens, where I think that from the bullish perspective of it does create a lot of different things, different opportunities, even outside of projects, right? Like, I view a successful project as something that, you've cultivated some type of community that outside of just the project itself, they're pushing forward with different initiatives. And we've seen a lot of that, with, I mean, heck, I think the apes are a good example with how many different projects have really stemmed from their communities, obviously from the top down. But I mean, heck, even with like the stonks, I look at the guys in room 110 and I look at a bunch of the different things that you guys have pushed forward with. And it's really impressive, right? You guys have done a lot of cool things over the course of the past couple of years where, having that core foundation that really brings you together, um, it's unique to NFTs on a level that you really just don't find with the average shitcoin that's out there.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I don't want to monopolize this conversation, and I have been, but like, I, I've been thinking a lot about like what is an NFT. right? Like you have the 10K PFP sort of meta, which is, either it's just like, provenance slash a meme, or, community with a team or like some sort of agency, or, like there are all sorts of types of structures around these things. But then, like, there are people talking about NFTs as tracking pixels or NFTs as utility, where like maybe they are in fact not really designed to be immutable but ephemeral. Like, I'm going to get this NFT which gets me access to this one show, and that is my ticket. And then I keep the NFT afterwards, but it doesn't give me access after that. It's just sort of like a keepsake. It's like, okay, this is sort of an immutable record that I was there before this artist blew up or something like that. And that has some sort of value as bragging rights or something. So it seems like a lot of people are like trying shit and trying to figure out where these products fit and like how they could tie into larger brands, how they could tie into like, business models that already exist. And like, I don't know, I don't feel like we've really seen the wave of that like happening, but maybe this is maybe these next couple of years, we're gonna see that. I don't know, but it's exciting, man. Like I I like the idea. What I sort of loved about NFTs from the start is that they're kind of like a choose your own adventure. Like, they're a container that you can sort of that holds value or denominates value, and either that's backed by something real, maybe there's yield associated, maybe it's just a brand, but like it really is like a function of somebody creates something, and they and the people who are purchasing it are applying their own imagination and creativity to what that product is. And that's fucking cool. Like, especially like coming from the perspective of an artist, like price discovery is just impossible. Like, it's really hard to do. Like, nobody knows how to evaluate their own work, and it's really hard to evaluate. Like, you've been to a museum, like you've seen different works, you've been to art galleries. Like, how do you evaluate the price of one thing versus another? It's hard to do. Um, so like the idea of trying to solve for those things in some sort of a mechanistic way, I think is like a really good one. Um, we're just like obviously not all the way there yet for all product categories. Like, 10K PFP meta, like obviously smacked super hard, has been smacking super hard. But like Pudgy, the 10K PFP collection that they have is not the same or analogous to the 10K PFP collection that, like, maybe Bored Apes isn't a good example, um, but they are applying their own sort of business model, their own structure to these things. Well, and that has nothing to do with the technology itself. It has everything to do with how they're approaching this genre or medium or whatever. Like, they're applying their own sort of values to it, and that's kind of cool.
Pythonomics, welcome up to the stage. You and Crow both. Want to hand it over to you guys real quick, being up here for a second. Also, Owen, send me your ETH address, man, because I wanna send you a stonk for coming up and joining today.
Yeah, I got you, man. Thank you.
And by the way, Rooster, I finally did get those stonks out. I sent them to everybody, so we're finally caught up. Like I said, I always get them sent out. It just sometimes takes a minute.
Oh, I can unmute my DMs now.
So it's done.
I gotta hop off, guys. Love you all. Thanks for having me. Have a good night.
Hey, thanks for joining, man. Good night.
See ya, man. See ya.
All right, Mr. Crow, what is good in Philly, man?
It's raining a lot.
How do you feel about the Eagles right now? What's happening with them?
Not too much. I don't care anymore. I
don't care anymore.
No, it's not making me money. It's not getting me a girlfriend. I don't care.
Okay, so you're not an Eagles fan.
I'm an Eagles fan. I just, I can't be losing sleep over things like that,
Not
You're a
letting
fair
you
weather
dictate
fan.
life.
I am a fair weather fan. I'm fine with that too. It is what it is.
Let me ask you, Crow, are your ENS names getting you a girlfriend?
No, they're just been burning me. I'm down so bad. No, I mean that was never supposed to be like any kind of quick flip. So I literally need one to sell for like an ETH. Let me take that back. I need like a couple to sell for an ETH, and I'll be in the green. So I got a chance. Somebody's name's gonna be expiring here soon. FYI.
Oh shoot, is my name expiring? Do I need to look at it and
Yeah, you probably should.
repurchase? Shoot,
Like it's gonna be a couple months still, but
I've got to look on there right now. I appreciate that, like,
yeah.
because there are. I think there. I'll re-up it.
I'm sure there are
Speaking
bots
of
already set up to snipe that shit, Kelly.
speaking of domains, I honestly think you'll probably see another round of bids coming their way, and especially with sold domains, I think they'll catch a pretty nice bid. And eventually, at some point in time, you know, B-Ways has been chilling forever about how undervalued they were, and I've dipped my toes in. I've grabbed my sold domain and a couple of the 10K clubs because I think Sol will definitely have its influx in users and other projects that remain prominent, like Mad Lads or Tensorians, things like that. Will take off, and people will be wanting to get their the same digit they have. I think you might see probably most coins will end up going to the coins built will end up going to zero, but you might see some airdrops coming to SNS names as well. Wouldn't shock me. So yeah,
Rooster,
over this past year,
is there renewal fees for those, or when you buy it, it's yours forever?
I don't even know. I ate first to ask questions later.
Heard that.
When I registered mine, it was like $20 USDC. That's the only thing. It didn't. I don't remember looking at a time limit or anything.
Yeah, I don't think there is. I got Irison dot soul, and I got iHeart NYC dot soul. That's my dot soul plays so far.
Did you secure 7rocketship.soul?
Somebody beat me to it though. Son of
No,
a
that's
bitch.
how you know. That's how you know there's demand.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
quite
there's
bullish. Quite
no
bullish for my
demand for
7rockets
domains.
dot ETH.
Wait till he finds out Rooster's the one who registered it.
Oh, and I came up to shill Dino Dicks too. Vlad built a custom Chat GPT 4, so he's been like training it on crypto and stuff, and you can ask it pretty pointed questions. Like I had it explain Bollinger Bands to me like I was a retarded 7-year-old.
Some
And
Dino
like,
Dix utility.
there really is. Like I posted the tweet up top. It's free for everybody to check out right now. Like it's worth just playing around for a second. I think it could be quite valuable.
That's amazing, man. I love that. Pythonomics, what's up, man?
Not much at all. We're just putting our final touches on something that we've been cooking for the last couple weeks. So hoping to have something that we can launch within the next 48 hours. Obviously, it ties back into the No Chill project that we launched a couple weeks back. So keep your eyes open over there.
You're not gonna tell them what chain it's on? Come on, bro.
Oh yeah, it's on the Dorito chain. So if you're a
There
big
you
fan of
go.
Doritos, that's the chain to be on.
Dude, that's incredible. So, I just for the people in here, if they want to pay attention to it, where do they follow you for that?
You can either follow me. I have more cryptic type of posts these days, but the better place to follow would be the No Chill Avax Twitter or joining Telegram because like we're always in there just chatting it up, and that's usually where we leak information first. Leak is probably not the right word for it, but yeah, you know what I mean.
10-4,
Yeah,
man. That's exciting. Love to hear it. Let's see. So I'm looking at it right now. I got to get running here in a bit. This has been a fun space though. Back, like I've really enjoyed this. It's been a solid, we've been a solid hour 45. Owen, I'm serious. If you send me your ETH address within the next 2 minutes, I will
Paleo,
get it to you within the
Paleo,
next 5
I
minutes.
did. You
Did
don't
you?
follow me.
I don't follow you? How do I not follow you? I thought I did.
Well, I sent you a DM saying, "Hey, bro, you're not following me," but then that went to your other folder, so you know how that goes.
Oh, shoot. My bad. I
I
thought
ended
I
up
was
in the
following
doom
you.
loop.
Well, I'm following you now.
Well,
Okay.
it's like I've known you for so long. It felt like awkward to bring it up. You know what I'm saying? Like, just like we ended up in that weird. It's like when you meet somebody like 4 times in a row and you forget their name, and every time you're like, "Yo, dude, what's up?" Like, kind of felt like that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I'm sending you. I like this one a lot. We got a gradient with the Bollinger Bands on it. I like the color scheme too. So it is heading your way right now.
Bang.
That's
But
a record. That is officially a record for the fastest stonks sent out on the Wonky.
Hey, the others, they all came through. Again, like I send them out. It just sometimes takes a minute. Like if it is not right then and there, then there's a chance that it might be a space or two later. So we got it done. It is officially, the transfer is complete. Congratulations. Welcome to the Stonk community. We'll be back,
We
and
like the stonks.
yes. So we'll be back this Friday. So yeah, Friday we'll be back to the regular scheduled programming for episode 99. Be on the lookout for it. And thanks everyone for rolling out. Wonky Stonks are inevitable. We will see you guys here in just a few days.
Cheers, everybody. Happy New Year.